You want to get down? Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Let's see what's happening. You can address them as if they are walking in. Hey guys, it's Ben. Looks like the live video is working now. We lost the whole thing, so we are attempting to film this again. Hey Tina, hey Jeff, thanks for joining us. I'm turning it over to Eric. Got 5 of you watching, that's exciting. So share the post and let's build us an audience. And all right, it's all yours, boss.
Okay, good morning everyone. This is our second service of the morning. I just did a 10 o'clock service and it was probably the most awesome message I'd ever given, but it didn't record. So our tech team, meaning Ben, who is at my home, spending a few days because we're snowed in, he says, let's try it again. So we will. I'm sitting in an upstairs room of my home. This is where I start every morning of my life from about 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. Behind me is an amateur radio station. Some of you have heard me talk about that. I, along with about 25 others from around the world, each morning get together and we do a verse-by-verse Bible study. So getting a lot of Bible study. If you'd like to join in, you may not be a ham operator, but you may have a shortwave receiver, or you can download a shortwave receiver over the internet and tune in to 3912 kilohertz every morning at about 6 a.m. and you'll hear the Bible study starting. It can be very technical, which another term for technical is geek, and that would be me. But we have a good time with it, and I would welcome you to listen in, or if you're an amateur radio operator, participate with us. It's just a good time with other people who love Jesus and want to study His Word. Typically, I would be doing a series on generosity on this Sunday, but 7 inches of snow means that we're not having services. Probably most of the churches in the Triad area are out of luck as well when it comes to that. We were also supposed to do communion this morning, but no communion unless you can do it at your house. We'll do that next Sunday as well. If you'd like to contribute to the ministry, you can go on the Realm, which some of you are signed up for that, so you know what I'm talking about. You can do that now, or you can do that 24 hours a day and contribute. At the end of this message this morning, after we sign off, there will be a video link that you can click on, and it'll take you to a way to make your normal contributions to the church, even though we're not there. I want to say a few thing that I think may set some of you free this morning. At least that's my hope, which is always my hope when I teach and preach. I've just known so many people over the years that put a lot of spiritual pressure on themselves. And I want to give you 5 things this morning out of what I call a little black book. This is prop time. I carry this book with me a lot, and in it are about 35 years of what I call bumper sticker wisdom. Not much of it's from me. A lot of it comes from other places. But when I see something that's meaningful to me, I'll just jot it down in this book. And I pulled 5 things from my book that I want to share with you this morning, thinking that some of it is going to change your mind about some things. One of the things I hear a lot of the time is a lot of people, even though they've been in the Christian circle a long time, they say, well, I don't know enough Bible. I want to know more Bible, or they say, I don't understand the parts of the Bible that I read. Well, my advice to you is to slow down. Breathe just a little bit. Take it easy when it comes to Bible study. Let me show you, and we could have done this high tech and put this on the screen, but instead I'm using some low tech technology, and hopefully you can see it. One of my elders at Community Church that I trust a lot, we were just sitting at breakfast one morning and sharing together, and here's what he said about the Bible. He said, when studying the Bible, don't go for distance, go for depth. And he just kind of moved on. He didn't mean for that to be profound or anything, but man, I went right to my black book and I put that in there, and it's something that I try to think about a lot. So let me explain that to you, and hopefully you're jotting that down or you've taken a screenshot of it. But what does it mean to go for depth when it comes to studying the Bible rather than distance? It's pretty simple, really. Stop trying to cram more and more Bible into your life until you start to understand some of the Bible that's already in your life. I mean, you've probably known the same kinds of people I have. They can quote verse after verse after verse, and their lives are falling apart. I mean, they're just kind of, it's just falling apart. And you look at them and you wonder, what good are all those Bible verses that you can quote doing for you now? Listen, if you don't know how to apply it to your life, it's just not going to do you a bunch of good. It's kind of an exercise in uselessness just to memorize a bunch of words. I heard Andy Stanley preach recently, and just a great message and on experience. And he was talking about life experiences, and he said, experience is not a great teacher. I always thought that it was. But hey, he's Andy Stanley. He said, experience is not a great teacher. It's evaluated experience that teaches us. What he meant by that is you can experience something bad and just keep doing it over and over and over and learn nothing. But if you sit back and you think about it, you absorb it, you evaluate it, and you make the decision, I don't need to keep doing that. I want to do life a different way. He said, that's a good teacher. Well, the Bible's like that too. Just memorizing words after words after words without understanding them, it just is useless. So my encouragement to you today would be the same that my elder encouraged me with. Just pick a verse, or pick just a few verses and study those verses. Think about them, meditate on them, memorize them, and let them work into your life. And then after that, move on. So I guess I would encourage you this morning to just relax a little bit and slow down, and just take it one verse at a time. I mean, you got the rest of your life. You don't have anything else to do. The second truth that I pulled out of my little black book is, I think it's a Chinese proverb actually, but it's one that I like because it's gives us kind of bad news, good news. And it's simply this. It says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Yeah. And the second best time is now. Now you probably understand a little bit about what that means, but every time I read it, I see a negative and a positive in this. The best time to plant a tree, of course, was 20 years ago because now we'd have a big tree and have shade. But that's about regret. And if you just stop there, if you just stay there, life would just be full of regrets. But the second part of that truth is about possibilities. The second best time to plant a tree is right now. I want to encourage you this morning, if you're carrying regrets, maybe no one else knows. Maybe it's a secret. Maybe it's something you did or you didn't do. Could have been yesterday, could have been a long time ago. And you're carrying regret. Well, here's what I want to tell you about that. Okay, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. I'll give the proverb that one. But we can't go back 20 years and plant a tree. If you're having regrets from the past and you can fix them, then go back and fix them. Maybe you need to make that phone call. Maybe you need to go see someone personally and make that apology. Or maybe you need to write that letter. Or maybe you need to give back what you took. Just do it. But so many times, there's a lot of water that's going under that bridge and we can't go back and fix it. Well, then don't. But don't keep carrying it around. Ask God to help you with that. Ask God to take the regret from you. Talk to a trusted friend or some counsel, some spiritual counsel that you believe in, and let them help you with it. And if you can fix it, then by all means do whatever it takes. One of my friends at Community Church, he could be listening in this morning, lived a kind of a long, hard life. It was full and it was colorful, but probably some things that he wished that he hadn't done. I guess about a year ago, he walked up to me after a service, and he's only been a Christ follower for a few years now. But he said, after 19 years of a problem with my dad, he said, this past week I finally talked to him and forgave him. And man, I thought, how awesome is that? So I just looked at him and I said, well, what did your dad say when you forgave him? He said, I don't know. He said, I was standing beside my dad's grave, who had been dead for 19 years. And I finally came to the place for the first time I could go to his grave and say, Dad, I forgive you. Wow. If you can do something about a regret, do it. But if you can't, it's time to plant some new thinking. It's time to plant a new decision and you can do that right now. You can do that wherever you are listening to this. Just plant a new decision. It reminds me of Philippians 4:13. I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Ask Christ for the strength to let you put the past regrets beyond you and plant a new tree. Plant a new way of living. The third one on my list this morning, we could have saved a lot of money with technology if I would have just carried a legal pad into the pulpit every week, but probably can't see that from a distance, right? Yeah. Okay. Mark Twain said this: the two most important days of your life are the day you were born, that's the first one, and the day you found out why. Now, I don't know if Mark Twain was a Christ follower, but I know that's an awesome statement. Two most important days of your life. Number one, when you were born. Number two, when you find out why. Now, unless you're unusual, you know when you were born. You don't remember it, but you know your birthday. You saw a birth certificate one time, or your mom, or your aunt, or your uncle, your dad. Somebody said, on this day, this year, you were born. So that's your birthday. That's easy. But do you know why? Do you know why you were born? If you've never thought much about it, or if you're not a Christian, you just think being born was an accident. Some of you actually were told that you were an accident. But you're not. You're not some kind of surplus equipment that just happened. You're not a throwaway. The Bible's very clear about that. One of our favorite scriptures at Community is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They're plans for good, not disaster. They're plans to give you a future and a hope. God has plans for you. That's not past tense. It doesn't say, well, I had a plan for you a long time ago and you missed it. No, he doesn't say, I'm having a plan for you later. He says, I have a plan for you right now. It's a hope and a future for you. I don't know how it can get any better than that. God wants you to have hope for today. He wants you to understand why you were born. He wants you to understand why you were put on this planet. And I'm telling you, that is easy to figure out. All you have to figure out is what God made you good at. And He made you good at something. Everybody is good at something. He gives you the tools that you need to be good at that thing He birthed you for. Now, in the church world, we call those things spiritual gifts, and every Christ follower has one, at least one. And in 2017, I know Community, we're going to be doing a lot of the same thing every other church on the planet's doing. We're trying to figure out how to better follow Jesus, how to take care of each other better, how to do outreach and evangelism, and all the stuff churches do. But in 2017, one of the commitments that we're making to our church from the leadership side is to help every Christ follower that sits in our seats to understand why they were born, to find out what their gifts are, and then to show them places where they can go out and use them. It's just as simple as that. So, two most important days in your life: when you were born and when you found out why. Let us help you find out why, if you don't already know. I know why I was born. I know it was to be the husband of Jackie, the father of Ashley and Lydia, but it was to be the pastor of Lexington Community Church. No question. That's why I was born. What about you? God has a plan for you. The next one. When you live in hopelessness, you'll surrender to the problem. When you live in hope, you'll surrender to the solution. Now you might be wondering, was that Mark Twain? Was that the Chinese proverb? What very wise person said this? Well, that would be me. This is an Eric Disher original, I think. At least I Googled it, and I don't think I plagiarized it. But when you live in hopelessness, you'll surrender to the problem. How do I know that? Because I have been an expert at that. Rather than going right to the solution, which the Bible tells me to do over and over and over again. As soon as the problem hits, I'll go there and I'll whine like a baby and get all hopeless, and God, you're not coming through, or God, when are you going to help me? It's always about me. It's like this big baby, I need a pacifier this big around. But I've spent a lifetime surrendering to the problem first. And then one day, I don't know where it came from, but I'm thinking, I don't have to surrender my life to the problem. Now, I've got to surrender to something. At some point, everybody waves the white flag. But I can go right beyond the problem and wave the white flag to the absolute solution. Let me read to you something out of Romans chapter 5. Paul says, we can rejoice when we run into problems and trials. We don't have to surrender to them. He said, we can rejoice in them. He said, for we know that they help us develop endurance. And endurance develops strength of character. And character strengthens our confident hope. There it is. It's hope, not hopelessness. And Paul says this hope will not disappoint us. Some of you have been disappointed in yourself, or maybe your spouse or your work. Some of you have been disappointed in the church. And it's okay. We've done some disappointing things. Some of you have been disappointed in God. And Paul says God will never disappoint you if you understand what He's up to. So don't surrender your life to your problem. At least surrender to the solution first. At least give the solution a try. If you give up before you start, it is impossible. But don't give up. Keep surrendering to the solution. As we talk about a lot at Community, everything good in life starts with a decision. And you can decide this morning. Maybe you're sitting by yourself listening to this. Maybe you'll be listening to it later in the week and it's just you and your headphones. Why don't you make a decision that you're going to stop living in your problem and you're going to start living in the solution. And the solution is hope. And the Bible definition of hope is very simple. Hope is the confident expectation that God's going to do what He says He's going to do. He is going to fulfill His promises. So before you, even if you end up in the problem and you've surrendered that, even if you're going to do that, why don't you reverse the roles? And at least for a little while, try surrendering to the solution first. I believe you're going to be amazed, as I have, what God will do with that. Now, number 5, the last one on my list. I don't know if I saved the best for last. And I don't know what you might do with this. This is something that I taught my daughters a long time ago. It's absolutely true. And if you'll do it, if you'll just take your mornings and do this, the rest of the day is awesome. It makes every day better. It makes every day incredible. And it's a truth that I learned a long time ago. And here it is. Eat a live frog first thing in the morning, and nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day. See you later, everybody.